Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about the personality disorders. So in the personality disorders, what is personality? So personality is a dynamic organization within an individual. Personality is dynamic organization within individual is personality disorder. Here there is unique adjustment to the environment is seen. So there are five broad dimensions of personality disorder are seen, which include one, there is openness to experience. Second, the patient will have conscientiousness, and there will be agreeableness will be there, and there will be neuroticism will be seen. So openness to experience include the patient will have curiosity, novelty seeking will be there. Then we have conscientiousness. Conscientiousness means the patient is organized and disciplined. Then there is extraversion. In extraversion, the patient will have sociability, talkativeness, and preference of group activities will be there. And agreeableness is cooperation of others. Then neuroticism is tendency to experience unpleasant emotion easily. Tendency to experience unpleasant emotion easily is neuroticism, which is emotional stability. Okay, so these are the five broad dimensions of personality traits. Then what about the personality disorders? Personality disorders are actually the abnormal behaviors. These personality disorders are most commonly seen in the adolescence, and they progress to the adulthood also. These are actually ego-symptomatic. What is ego-symptomatic? They are actually agreeable to self. They are okay with that. That is personality disorders. So first we have something called as cluster A personality disorder, which is actually odd and eccentric. What do you see in cluster A? There will be odd and eccentric. So what is odd and eccentric? So this is actually between normal and schizophrenia. So one, we have paranoid personality disorder. In paranoid personality disorder, this person is excessively suspicious and distressed to others. He often complains police for even slight issues. He has extreme sensitivity and he keeps grudges for a long time, even for smaller things. He always thinks importance to himself. He gives importance to himself rather than others. Then we have the next personality is schizoid personality. In schizoid personality disorder, these schizoid personality disorder patients are detached from the social relationship. There is highest level of introversion and they prefer solitary activities. These schizoid personality disorders are emotionally cold and they do not have many friends. These people work where very few activities give them pleasure and they have little interest in sexual activity. So that is schizoid personality disorder. Then we have schizotypical personality disorder. In schizotypical personality disorder, they are odd and eccentric and they have magical thinking. They are like a child with fears and fantasies, and they have strange ways of communications which others find it difficult to understand. And they also report illusions are seen. That is schizotypical personality disorder. Then we have the next cluster, that is cluster B personality disorder. In cluster B personality disorder include we have attention seeking behavior. In the attention seeking behavior, that is cluster B personality disorder, one we have narcissistic personality disorder. Okay, in narcissistic personality disorder, they give excessive self importance and they believe that they are special and talented, fantasies of unlimited success and power, and they have fragile self esteem, and they are susceptible to depression when faced with rejection. If condemned, these narcissistic personality disorders are very angry and they are also boast off about themselves every time. Then there is histrionic personality disorders. In histrionic personality disorders, they are extroverted and behave dramatic and excitable and emotional. They want to be center of attention for everything. So they exaggerate everything. They are sexually seductive and they put makeup and use physical appearance to draw attention to self. Then we have antisocial personality disorder. In antisocial personality disorder, also called as dissocial personality disorder, these are unlawful behaviors like theft, lying, no guilt, and no empathy. Here, these people will never ever learn from the previous mistakes. These people, in them, the substance abuse disorders are most commonly seen. Then we have borderline personality disorders. In borderline personality disorders, the patient is almost always in the state of crisis. He has significant mood changes and he has unclear self-image and goals. He is intense and but shallow emotions. He has black and white view. Either he is excessively close and dependent on one person, and at the same time, if that person finds to be defective, then he becomes hostile to that close person. So he has unstable interpersonal relationships. He is repetitive self-defensive acts like slashing of wrists or overdose of medications. This is to elicit help from others and to express anger. There is impulsiveness is seen in some areas like spending and substance abuse. There is low frustration and tolerance and poor coping skills are present. This borderline personality disorder is actually the most common cause of suicidal attempt and also para-suicide. The drug of choice for borderline personality disorder is SSRIs are used in high doses, and dialectic behavioral therapy can be given. Then the next we have cluster C personality disorders. So in cluster C personality disorders, first we have avoidant personality disorder. In avoidant personality disorder, here there is these avoidant personality disorders are excessively sensitive to rejection. They are afraid that they would be criticized or rejected in some social situation. They are actually socially withdrawn, unwilling to enter into a relationship unless strong guarantee of uncritical acceptance is given. That is avoidant personality disorder. Then we have dependent personality disorder. In dependent personality disorder, the patient is always dependent on others. That is dependent personality disorder. Then we have obsessive compulsive personality disorder. In obsessive compulsive personality disorder are also called as anancastic personality disorder. In obsessive compulsive personality disorder or anancastic personality disorder, in this they wanted to be punctual, perfect. They always want the rules and regulations to be perfect. There is no risk of obsessive compulsive disorder in the future, and in these patients of obsessive compulsive personality disorder, they have risk of depression. They lack sense of humor and they are excessively devoted to work. These obsessive compulsive personality disorder are systemic, moralistic and rigidity of thinking, and they are also formal and they are serious about completing the tasks. So that is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. Then we have the next important is personality. So personality is of three types. We have A personality, then we have B personality, then we have C personality. In A personality, people are extremely competent. They are time urgency. They are workaholics, ambitious, and they are impatient. They have risk factors for coronary artery disease. They have a risk factor for coronary artery disease. Whereas personality B, these are actually relaxed personality and they have no competitiveness. They are relaxed and they have no competitiveness. Then we have personality D. In personality D, they are negatively affected by social inhibition. This will predispose them to develop for the development of coronary artery disease. This will predispose them to further development of coronary artery disease. So we have A personality, B personality, and D personality. A personality has risk factor of coronary artery disease, whereas D personality, there is recurrence of coronary artery disease is more common in D personality. So this is about the personality abuse disorder, personality dependent disorders. Then the next important thing is we have eating disorders. In the eating disorders, we have two things. One, we have bulimia nervosa. One, we have anorexia nervosa. Second, we have bulimia nervosa. Anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. So if you see in anorexia nervosa, it is most commonly seen in adolescent females. Anorexia nervosa is seen in adolescent females, most commonly upper class but recently this data do not support, but still the appetite is normal in anorexia nervosa. Signs and symptoms are the patient will have disturbance in body image. That means the patient feels that she is fat despite of being thin. Here the patient is actually thin, but she feels to be fat. That is one important thing. So she will restrict her energy intake. Thus, for losing weight, she restricts her energy intake. The weight of this patient will be less than normal. The patient also develops amenorrhea. There will be appearance of lanugo hair, that is appearance of neonatal hairs will be seen. The patient develops hypothermia, dependent edema and bradycardia. There will be poor sexual development and less interest in sexual activities. The patients of this anorexia nervosa will have peculiar behaviors, like they do not wanted to eat, right? So as a result they adopt to peculiar behaviors, like they will hide the foods in different places. They will try to dispose the foods in the napkins, cut the foods into small pieces and rearrange them around the plate. So all these are seen in anorexia nervosa. So there are types of anorexia nervosa. If you see two types of anorexia nervosa can be seen. One, those are restricting type, and second we have purging type or binge eating type. In restricting type, this is seen in 50% of patients. They are highly restricted. They restrict the food intake. They take highly restricted food intake. Whereas in purging type, they do intermittent binging. They eat large amount of food and start inducing self-vomiting. So in these patients of purging type of anorexia nervosa, they will develop dental caries, parotitis, hypokalemic episodes, hypokalemic alkalosis will develop because of self-induced vomiting. So treatment of anorexia nervosa is, you will have to hospitalize the patient and then you will have to restore the nutritional status of the patient. And then we can give behavioral therapy, individual psychotherapy and family education is given to the patient. Then if you see bulimia nervosa, this bulimia nervosa has episodes of binge eating. In bulimia nervosa, there are episodes of binge eating are seen in bulimia nervosa. Because of this episodes of binge eating, she does, and then there will be inappropriate ways of preventing weight gain. First they eat a lot of food and then they start self-induced vomiting, or laxatives or diuretics they will take, or they will start using emetics, or excessive exercising and dieting will be done. So because of self-induced vomiting, these patients develop enamel erosion, dental caries, salivary gland inflammation, callus on the knuckles, and hypokalemic hypochloremic alkalosis is seen in these patients. So if you see, this bulimia nervosa is most commonly seen in females and adolescents. These patients are normal weight. They have normal sexual functioning. They have no amenorrhea. But if you see these patients with anorexia nervosa, they have amenorrhea is seen in these patients. Okay. So in the treatment of bulimia nervosa can be done in OP basis only, and here you can give psychotherapy can be given to the patients. So this is about the eating disorders. The next important thing here, important topic is sleep disorders. So if you see in the sleep disorders, we have EEG. What is EEG? EEG is recording of electrical activity of brain is called as EEG. So in this EEG, these EEG electrodes are placed on the scalp and then we record the potential difference. Then if you see the stages of sleep are, we have first non-rapid eye movement sleep, or also called as slow wave sleep. Non-rapid eye movement sleep, also called as slow wave sleep, which is stage 1 non-rapid eye movement sleep. In stage 1 non-rapid eye movement sleep, the sleep is light and there will be loss of alpha activities will be seen, loss of alpha waves will be seen, and there will be predominance of theta waves will be seen. Here there will be loss of alpha waves and predominant theta waves is seen in this case. Okay, in stage 1 NREM. Then we have stage 2 NREM. In stage 2 NREM, this stage 2 NREM occurs mainly for the maximum duration. It occurs for maximum duration of time among the NREM, and this has sleep spindles and it has kappa complexes are seen. What are sleep spindles? Sleep spindles are bursts of regular waves which are seen are sleep spindles, and we have kappa complexes which are these kappa complexes are high voltage spikes which are seen intermittently are called as kappa complexes. Then we have stage 3 sleep. In stage 3 sleep, this NREM, this is actually here the sleep will deepens. As the sleep deepens, there will be appearance of delta waves are seen, which are 1 to 4 hertz and 20 to 200 microvolts in size. So this is stage 3 NREM. Then we have stage 4 NREM. In stage 4 NREM, this deepens further, and here there is increased predominance of delta waves is seen. Then in NREM, what is happening? In NREM, there is pulsatile release of gonadotropins is seen, and growth hormones is seen in NREM. In NREM, the BP, heart rate and also respiratory rate will decrease. Then we have something called as rapid eye movement sleep. In rapid eye movement sleep, there will be development of rapid eye movements is seen, and there is generalized loss of muscle tone will be seen. In rapid eye movement sleep, this will increase the metabolism of the brain. This will increase the metabolism of the brain. The EEG activity will also increase. In EEG, there will be increased activity with beta and alpha activity will increase. Here in rapid eye movement sleep, there will be penile erection, autonomic hyperactivity like increased blood pressure, increased heart rate, increased respiratory rate is seen. The patient will have dreams. These dreams are recalled, and there will be pontogeniculo-occipital spikes are also seen in the patient. What are these There is pontogeniculo-occipital spikes will be developed. So what do you see in pontogeniculo-occipital spikes? Here the patient will have large phasic potentials which originate from cholinergic neurons in pons. Here large phasic potentials originate from cholinergic neurons in pons, and they develop to lateral geniculate body and orbital cortex. Okay, then if you see in the sleep, if a person sleeps for 8 hours, among these 8 hours of sleep, 6 to 6.5 hours is actually non-rapid eye movement sleep, and the rest 1.5 hours is actually rapid eye movement sleep. So out of 8 hours, 6 to 6.5 hours is non-rapid eye movement sleep, and the rest 1.5 hour is rapid eye movement sleep. So mostly the stage 4 sleep, most of the stage 4 sleep will be NREM sleep. Most of the stage 4 NREM sleep will occur in first one third of the night, whereas most of the REM sleep will occur in the last one third of the night. So most of the stage 4 NREM sleep will occur in the first one third of the night, whereas most of the REM sleep will occur in the last one third of the sleep of the night. Okay, then if you see EEG rhythm, in the EEG rhythm there are alpha waves, beta waves, theta waves and delta waves. Alpha waves, beta waves, theta waves and delta waves. Alpha waves are 8 to 12 hertz, beta waves are 14 to 30 hertz, delta waves are 4 to 7 hertz, and theta waves are 4 to 7 hertz, delta waves will be 1 to 4 hertz. So alpha waves are 8 to 12 hertz, beta waves are 14 to 30 hertz, theta waves are 4 to 7 hertz, and delta waves are 1 to 4 hertz. So if you see the amplitude, alpha waves have 500 to 550 to 500 microvolts, and beta waves have 10 to 5 microvolts. Then theta waves are 10 microvolts, and delta waves are 20 to 200 microvolts. So in alpha waves, the patient has awake at rest and eyes closed and mind wandering. Here there will be occipital and parieto-occipital area. The waves will generate. Then beta waves, here in the patient is normal awake pattern and then the patient is attentive, then there will be beta waves. These beta waves are mainly seen in the frontal area. Then if you see theta waves, in theta waves it will see when there is transition from wakefulness to sleep, then you see theta waves. So these theta waves are developed in parieto-temporal region. And in the delta waves will develop in deep sleep. So these are the EEG rhythm. Then the next important is sleep disorders. So in the sleep disorders we have number 1 dysomnias, and then we have parasomnias. We have dysomnias and parasomnias. What do you see in dysomnias? Dysomnias is abnormal duration or quality of sleep is dysomnias. Abnormal duration or quality of sleep is dysomnias. That means there can be decreased sleep, so that means insomnia, or there can be increased sleep, that is hypersomnia. So in dysomnia, so first insomnia. Insomnia means here there is decreased sleep, or the patient has difficulty in initiating sleep, or patient has difficulty in maintaining sleep. Here the non-restorative sleep is of poor quality of sleep and it is no feeling is refreshed, no cause, and here you will see primary insomnia is seen. What are the disorders of insomnia? The disorders of insomnia are, so in insomnia the patient develops the following disorders. 1, there is periodic limb movement disorder. In periodic limb movement disorder, the patient will have sudden contraction of the muscle groups like legs while sleeping. So when the patient has contracts the muscle groups of legs while sleeping, this will result in partial or complete awakening. That is periodic limb movement disorder. Here patient may not be aware of it, and the patient will develop daytime sleepiness also. The treatment of the patient of periodic limb movement disorder is benzodiazepines. Then we have restless leg syndrome. In restless leg syndrome, that patient has uncomfortable sensation in the legs, which is relieved by moving the legs or walking around. A patient has uncomfortable sensation in the legs, which is relieved by moving the legs and walking around. So treatment of restless leg syndrome or Ekbom syndrome is droperidol is the treatment of choice. Then we have hypersomnias. So what is hypersomnia? Hypersomnia is prolonged sleepiness or increased sleepiness, prolonged sleep disorder or excessive daytime sleep disorders are called as hypersomnias. So the disorders associated with this hypersomnias are: 1, we have narcolepsy. What is narcolepsy? Narcolepsy is sleep attacks are seen in narcolepsy. That means the patient will have irresistible urge to sleep. Here the patient develops cataplexy. So what is cataplexy? Cataplexy is sudden loss of muscle tone is seen, and the patient also develops hypnagogic hallucination, and also the patient develops sleep paralysis. So these are the main things of narcolepsy, where there will be sleep attacks, cataplexy, hypnagogic hallucinations and sleep paralysis will be seen. The treatment regimen of this narcolepsy is, we should give modafinil is given, and also amphetamines are given. Modafinil and amphetamines are given for the narcolepsy or sleep disorders. Then if you see in the hypersomnias, there is one more important disorder which is called as Klein-Levin syndrome. Klein-Levin syndrome. So what do you see in Klein-Levin syndrome? Here in Klein-Levin syndrome, here the patient, this is actually a rare syndrome where the patient develops hypersomnia, he develops hyperphagia, then he develops hypersexuality is seen. So between the episodes, the patient is asymptomatic. So Klein-Levin syndrome is a rare presentation where the patient develops hypersomnia, hyperphagia, and hypersexuality. Then there is next important is parasomnias. So what are seen in parasomnias? Parasomnias are dysfunctional events associated with sleep are called as parasomnias. These are dysfunctional events which are associated with sleep. These can be divided into stage 4 NREM sleep disorders, and these can be divided into REM sleep disorders. So in stage 4 NREM sleep disorders, the patient will have night terrors. So in this stage 4 NREM sleep disorders, these are most common in children, and patients do not recall these events in the morning. So night terror or sleep terror or Pavas nocturnus. Here the patient gets up screaming suddenly at night with increased anxiety, increased heart rate and sweating. But the patient is not able to recall the event or dream. That is night terrors or sleep terrors. Then next we have sleepwalking. Sleepwalking, also called as somnambulism. In sleepwalking and somnambulism, here the patient moves around and dresses and drives. That is sleepwalking and somnambulism. Then the patient has sleep-related enuresis. In sleep-related enuresis, this is most common cause of bedwetting seen in children. Here the children pass urine at night, and the treatment of choice is you can either give the baby bed alarms. That is, this bed alarm starts ringing as soon as the child passes urine, or you can give behavioral therapy, and at the end if nothing works, then you should go to the drugs like imipenem and desmopressin can be given. Then we have bruxism. In bruxism or teeth grinding, there will be damage to the enamel of the teeth. In bruxism or teeth grinding, there will be damage to the enamel of the teeth. Okay, this is also seen in stage 4 NREM sleep. And then sleep talking are also called as somnaloquy. It is actually seen in both stage 3 and stage 4 NREM sleep. Then what about the REM sleep? In REM sleep disorders are, in this the patient develops nightmares. That is, here there will be bad dream, the patient is scared, and in nightmares anxiety is seen, which increases the heart rate and hypertension. In nightmares the patient is not able to recall the dream. So in nightmares the patient is able to recall the dream. In nightmares patient is able to recall the dream. Treatment is tricyclic antidepressants are given to the patient. Then we have child psychiatry. In the child psychiatry, first we have